Fight on!
Yo guys, what's up? Welcome back to Top Tier Arcade. My name is Steve, and you're back with me in the apartment. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Killer Instinct 2 Arcade Part 4, The Memories. That's right, I'm going to be bringing it back to 1996, and telling you all about Killer Instinct 2 and my memories about this game. Also, if you can tell, I got a haircut, finally. I was sick of the other one. I was slicking it back. It took too much time to style. It was hot. The summer's getting, and the spring summer's coming. So far, so good. And, you know, it looks a lot neater than how I used to be years ago when I was thinner, and I'm getting there too. So that's one. Number two, of course, in all my memories videos, I'm going to smoke a cigar or a reflecting stick just to reminisce back to 1996 and the Killer Instinct 2. And, of course, I'm going to have a stiff drink with me. Today I'm having Cîroc, straight vodka, no flavoring. And we might as well just get right to it. So let's get right to it. And again, I'm going to have an e-cigar today. I had the same one in my Miss Pac-Man memories. The clothing I have in my closet, we're going to be going to a wedding soon. And the way that I've moved these arcades, it's hard to pull everything out in order to do so. So I don't want to I don't want my clothes to smell. So I'm just going to have an e-cigar. And, you know, the next videos will be in a place where I can usually smoke. So I'll go back to having a real tobacco cigar. So, with that being said, again, we're here in the apartment. If anyone's watching, of course, we're all fans of, you know, the whole Brofest thing that's going on in New Hampshire with a lot of the guys. I know John's Arcade and Arcade Impossible and Outsiders, and they're going to all be there. Here's to you guys. I'm sorry I couldn't make it this year. If you're all watching, cheers. I hope you're having a great time representing the arcade hobby and representing us. Unfortunately, I'm in a stuffy apartment in Toronto, and no one cares. So with that being said, cheers to you guys, all the best. And to a successful Brofest 2015. Hopefully I'll make it 1 year so you can I can introduce myself and I can meet my brothers and Kate. So with that being said, let's get right to it. So the year's 1996, and Killer Instinct 2, of course, comes out. So at the time I was in martial arts with my older brother Mike. Later, my younger brother George would actually join as well a few years later. And my closest friend and childhood friend, Hunda, who is in my special presentation and Mimo videos, me and Hunda went to martial arts together, and we grew, and and that's how we became such good friends. So it was 96. You know, the scene's still decent, kind of dying down because Sega Saturn was out, you know, Panasonic 3DO was out, PS1 was out. N64 was out, and you know, not to mention, you know, NES was still, you know, kind of tapering off, and you know, also Genesis. But what's happening is the home console is pretty much eating, it's cannibalizing the arcade. It's not the same experience. You can't talk to people. The physical presence of an arcade is not there. You know that, you know, the coin-up process, you know, the better graphics, arguably, still, and you know what, the arcade scene's slowly dying. And when Hoon and I would always try to find arcades, because Mike at the time was 19, so he was on to bigger and better things. He was going to university or college. He was finding better friends, and he was kind of growing up of the hobby. But it's not like here or now, where now adults play, you know, through their whole childhood. Back then, it was kind of, you know, a little kind of a childish thing to still do, but now again, it's widely accepted. So Mike was on his own thing. I took the crown in the family with arcades and arcade collecting and playing. My Street Fighter skills were getting better. My Mortal Kombat skills were getting better. Killer Instinct was getting high. Overall gaming was getting good. So before the N64 released the Killer Instinct Gold, which was the closest thing to the Killer Instinct 2, we were looking for the arcade. So the old arcade Spanky's that I used to go to, and if you don't know about what I'm saying, check out my Killer Instinct 1 series and you'll understand. Well, Spanky's was a front for drugs. And once they closed that down or whatever happened, the major arcade in my city was gone. So we had to resort to movie theaters, corner stores, and, you know, bowling alleys, or even like mini go-kart things. And they were getting, few and far between. So it was getting challenging to become better at games, arcade games, because they were few and far between. We can go downtown Toronto, but I never drove at the time, and downtown was far for us. Now that we're an adult, I mean, it'd be easy. But at the time, my parents didn't want to drive me. Stupid arcades, Stevie, stupid arcades, video game kill you. My parents were ignorant. They didn't, they're probably right, but, it was rotting our brain. And they didn't want to take me. So, what did we do? It turned out that we went to go see whatever movie was out in 96, Titanic, I don't know, whatever. Terminator or something, I don't know, whatever it was. No, that's 92. Anyways, we went to see a movie once with some friends of ours, and I saw Killer Instinct 2, and I'm like, what? They have it here? So I didn't even hype it up. I'm like, I want to go play by myself. I want to go learn, like Mike did, go learn, uninhibited, no one talking to you, learning. So what I did, I still remember this like it was yesterday, I swear to God. I remember, I told my mom, hey, I'm going to go to the arcade. Now, I had a paper route, my first real job. $100 a month, can you believe? But again, at that age, what the hell are you really doing with money that much, right? So $100 a month, I would take, and whatever tips, I used to deliver papers, which is the local Toronto one. And, I just take that as video game money. My parents like, look, if you want to do it, you're buying it your own. That's it. You're a man now. I'm like, all right. I took my money. I took $20 worth. I walked to the mall. Which that mall is kind of a ratty mall, and it was later. It was after school. By the time I ate was maybe around 5:36. By the time I got there was around going to be 7, and that's when a lot of the people went to the movies, whether it be young or old. There's a lot of people in that demographic that may cause trouble. And my parents were always afraid of me, or afraid for me, I should say. So I'm like, no, Mom, I'm going to go. I remember I showered, I brushed my teeth, which is rare. When I was I hated it. I got all dolled up. I don't know why. I had a couple, these are gold, white gold, but I had my silver rings way before, of course, I was married. My silver rings, I wore that. I wore a nice chain, and, kind of dressing like, a Guido, one of, kind of Jersey Shores. I guess nothing's changed. But with that, I went right to the mall. And I remember I walked to the mall, and I went upstairs, and it was in an escalator, and there was Killer Instinct. Beside it was Virtual Fighter 4 or 3. I can't remember. They had air hockey, they had foosball, and they had, I think, Cruising USA or Cruising the World, one or the other right there. And I think that's, I think a few claw game, the claw, where you win the prizes. So those were there, and again, they were being occupied, and they had a gun game. I don't know if it was Time Crisis or the first House of the Dead. Was that out back then? I can't remember. Or no, I think it was Virtual Cop 2. Yeah, you guys remember Virtual? Yeah, Virtual Cop 2, that's right. Something like that. That was out there, and they were playing. Now, Killer Instinct was being played as I walked up. Now, I walked up with way too much cologne on. They could smell me from the escalator. And I came up, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to, I got next. I'm taking the throne. My brother's like, yo, it's yours. I'm out of the game. You go. I'm like, all right, cool. So I changed up, got $10 worth of quarters. And I pretty much went, and I went to buy popcorn and a drink, and I didn't even watch a movie, and I was just sitting there eating and drinking because I love popcorn. So I remember watching these kids play, right? And they're all right. They're decent. They're throwing a couple of fireballs. They don't know really the auto double. I'm like, yo, I'm going to smoke them. So this is where I wanted to get my practice in. And I remember there was something up with the coin counter, because when you put, at the time it was 50 cents. So you put 50 cents in, and it gave you 5 credits, I think. It was like a crazy amount. So people would be pumping in quarters thinking it's 1, but at the bottom it said credit 26. I'm like, you idiots, and they kept putting money in. They were younger. I guess they didn't understand they weren't fans, because they were just mashing the buttons. And I'm like, well, I don't even have to pay money. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So his buddy leaves, and they're looking at me, and I'm just like this, right, like cooling out, because I was 16 and I was invincible, right? So I was just cooling out. I was a little chubby. I was just sitting out. My little gut was hanging out. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, uh-huh. And I'm just acting like cool as shit. I was a loser, but whatever. They didn't know. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm just kind of observing, like, And then this guy, one of the kids is like, hey, man, you want to play? And I'm like, sure. So I didn't even put money in. I remember I reached down, because he was there, so I'd be second player. And I remember I just did this, and like I flicked the coin thing, and then I just pressed start, and they started the game. They didn't realize. And I'm like, okay, I'm playing for free. And I get in there, and remember, Jago's my guy. So I haven't had that much practice, but I knew enough that I knew that he had a fireball, an uppercut, and the whirlwind kick, or his spin kick. Whatever. So, and I'm like, I already knew, based on number one, that I can be just, knowing fighting games well, you just know, once you have a couple of even if you were to play, even though footsies weren't really kind of big back then, once you can kind of get a range on them and start throwing fireballs and whatever, it's pretty much Street Fighter strategy, and I knew Street Fighter well. So I was going to play Street Fighter-ish on Killer Instinct 2. So I get in, played Jago, White Jago, it was my favorite, and I started playing. He had a couple of moves. I mean, I was up on him, but he was getting kind of close. I'm like, okay, let's focus. So I started doing I started doing Jago's combos from Killer Instinct 1. And they were kind of working. I mean, the spin kick, auto double uppercut, good enough. So I'm like, all right, so I'll just win with that. I didn't know it was Ultra, though. So I'd kind of just beat him, and the guy's like, hey, you're pretty good. And I'm like, oh, and it's my first time playing. They go, no, how? Okay, you can't be that good. I'm like, well, I usually play Street Fighter or whatever else. And, and I started learning. So I started, I would beat him, almost to dead. And then I would kind of just practice auto doubles. I would let him hit me a little, and I'm like, okay, that links with this, good, good, good. And of course that was there, so I was reading it, and these kids weren't reading it. So I was on that, and I'm like, okay, now I'm getting it, and I did his Ultra by accident. So, and I'm doing his Ultra, say, hey, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. And he called my bullshit. He goes, you're lying. I'm like, no, I really don't know. I pressed it, I was mashing. I knew it was kind of, the quick, I think it was quick kick, but I didn't know it was an uppercut, and finally I was, it's a quarter circle back with quick, does his Ultra. And I started doing very well. Now what happens? So this guy was with a couple of other friends that were playing Cruising the World, or Cruising USA. And they were playing it, and he calls them over, and then I'm like, oh shit, now we got other kids wanting to play, but that's what's the competition, right? So I'm like, all right, this is going to be real. So the kid comes in, puts money in again. I'm like, you stupid shit. He puts money in, and it's like 7:30-ish. By the time I got my popcorn and I was checking these guys out, it's 7:30. So we're playing 7:45. He's keeps putting in quarters, and he keeps going higher and higher because I'm not losing. So it's up to damn near 30 credits. I'm not saying nothing because I'm thinking that's kind of mean to me. But I was 16, and I didn't give a shit. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna play forever. I'll play till midnight or whenever the last movie plays. So I'm chilling out. I'm there, and his buddy comes over. He starts playing me, and he's decent. He's better than his friend. And he's like, hey, where did you learn to play? I'm like, hey, I played the first one, and I was making some bullshit story. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like Street Fighter, we're talking. And they're okay kids, they weren't dicks or whatever. So, I was kind of helping them, like, okay, if you do this and this. Because, I was 16. I remember I did martial arts. Now, I don't know if my katas would do anything in a real fight. I was pretty good. But, but either way, I'm thinking I'm still new at this. I'm an orange belt. That ain't shit. And I don't know if I could take 3 or 4 different dudes, but I'm like, you know what, let me be nice to them. Let me be nice to them. And yeah, so I was playing, we're doing well. I'm doing pretty well. So in the end, the kids are like, hey, apparently they're there early at a birthday party to watch, I think it was a Friday or a Saturday, to watch a movie. So they go, hey, their mom's like, let's go. And the parents were downstairs. There's like a restaurant. They were having a drink or whatever. So they're like, hey, we gotta go. And I'm like, hey guys, good game. And I didn't lose once. And I was learning. So I'm going against computer, and I'm purposely doing moves. And I'm like, so I want to die because I have so much, because no one's playing. They kind of look, they see me kick these guys' asses, and they move. So I'm like, shit, man, I got almost 30 credits here, which is, 15 games. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm gold. I haven't spent a penny, nothing yet. Only in the popcorn. Maybe $10 or whatever the price is. No, back then it was probably around 5 or 6. But that's a lot of money when you make $100 a month. So I'm like, hey, I'm playing for free, whatever. So I'm doing well. Everything's going good. Now I'm starting to learn. Now I'm starting to get better. Now I'm like, okay, I get it. I would lose. I would see how much, I would study the game. I would watch the computer. I would watch Jago versus Jago and how he does his, and I'm understanding. So I was there for a few hours. It's probably around 9:30-ish. I'm down to maybe 2 or 3 credits. Now what happens is people leave the theater, and those same kids that watched whatever movie come out. And they're like, hey man, you're still here? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, and they're like, are you still playing? Are you doing well? I'm like, yeah, I'm still doing good. and they jumped in and put more quarters in. And because their mom's like, here's $5, go. And I'm like, yeah, you in. And I'm like, all right, whatever, I'm low on quarters. So I'm like, yeah, I'm a badass. I don't have to say nothing. Remember, I was cool when I was 16 and invincible. So these kids are, helping me kind of, learn here. And in the end, I beat them, like still. And they had ran out of money. And they go, come on, man, you got to let us win. So in the end, with the money they put in, I'm like, hey guys, why don't you watch me play the computer? Because I really wasn't going for gargoyles, even though I saw them when the ladder comes down. I saw them, but I didn't really know who the last guy was. I didn't know the story mode. I just wanted to practice. That's the way to do it. Get the fundamentals, then conquer the game. So in the end, I'm like, hey, you guys want to see if we can get to the last boss? And like, oh, cool. I'm like, who is it? I'm like, I don't know. So they were watching me play with their money, and I died. I remember I died twice, whether it was higher up. I think Spinal beat me and then Fulgore, and then I got the Gargos. And I only had 2 credits left plus the one I'm playing, so 3. I get to him and I lost. I'm like, shit, because he's always combo breaker, always combo. And I'm like, what's the strategy? So I'm down to the last thing, and I actually hate to say, but I did not beat him. I still remember I didn't beat him. So my credits were out. These kids were like, hey, we want to play. Do you mind if my friend and I play? And I'm like, sure. So, and I kind of was mentoring them a little because I've already kind of, used all their money against them. I hate to say, and learned and was there almost 3 hours. I'm like, okay. And the parents are like, okay, let's get going. Well, you've been here another 20 minutes. Let's leave. And I told them, okay, do this, do this, do this. So in the end, I'm like, the kid's like, hey, can you play for me? Put another couple of quarters and I was playing. And I watched my hands and I was teaching them. And it was kind of cool because it's kind of nerdy, but it was cool at the same time because when I reminisce back to how Mike, my brother, taught me, or I taught my friends or whatever, it was kind of like passing on the info. I don't know if they became good or bad, none of my business, or I don't care. But, at least, I try my best to, spread the knowledge and, encourage, arcades. At the time, I didn't know I would have this. And overall, gaming. So who knows? They might have, turned out to be great players, or even good people. So I remember when I was leaving, the mom of the kid came, and I still remember this because I felt like the coolest kid. I felt like Ryu, like I just conquered the game, and I'm carrying my duffel bag. Come on, I was 16. What did I know? So when all the kids are going out smoking weed and drinking a beer and trying to get laid, I'm sitting here playing video games on a Friday night, so what the hell. So what happens is the mom, he goes, hey, come on, let's go. He goes, did you win? He goes, no, this guy beat me. And I looked at him like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And they said, and they go, yo, they're bigging me up. They go, yo, this guy's the best. He's been here. He's pretty much taken all of our money. And the mom's like, oh, so you're the one why they keep asking. I'm like, hey, I played well, they won, and I'm helping them win and teach them. And they go, okay. And he goes, yo, this guy was amazing. So the kid out of the last few quarters, I'm walking, right? It's kind of in my ear space. And I'm walking, and I can see him saying, oh, cool, I did the combo. And I felt good. He was gratified to say, hey, you know what? I learned, I taught, I didn't waste any money other than eating. And, I remember the guy going, yo, that guy was so good. He goes, yo, I want to be like that guy. Now, again, I was 16, kind of getting my own, learning where I fit in. But hearing that and being in martial arts and gaining my confidence, really, I don't know, really, it meant a lot to me. I'm like, you know what, they thought it was that. Now I'm probably shit. But I mean, I remember them, well, not bad, but I remember them saying, he was really good, he was the best. And now I get when Mike would do so well in Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat or whatever, and even Killer Instinct, now I get it. Now I get that, like, yes, like I'm good at something. And I felt proud to say, it carried on to me. I carried the torch well. Now again, it was only a one-time situation, but for this game alone, I felt like this is the one game that, yes, it was me, it was all me, no one taught me nothing. I learned it myself. I took the strategies of the other games that I was taught, and I gave it back. So it was almost full circle, so that was very cool. And then from then on, arcades started to dwindle down, because if I'm not mistaken, for every game that I have and want to get, I think the exception is maybe Mortal Kombat 3. But either way, I think, I think this came out after. I would have to double check the records, but this is probably the oldest arcade game I'm going to have based on the games I have, especially fighting games. I think for the most part, so this is, it's something in my heart, man. I remember it. So what happens? I get home, I tell everyone, I told Mike, he goes, good for you, you know, good, okay, whatever, because he was kind of out of the scene, he was moving on. But what happened? That was in the spring of, I think, 96. So I'm 16, well, I was 15, turned 16 in the summer. And if I recall, the N64 came out. So in the relevance is the N64 was the first gaming console that I bought with my money, that I bought all by myself. Killer Instinct Gold was the first game I bought. I bypassed Mario, Pilot Wings. That was the 2 launch, right? Yep, that's right. And I remember I got Killer Instinct Gold. I played this game. I missed martial art. Well, I was sometimes late for martial arts. You know, every night after school, every time with my friends over, Huna was over, everyone's over. My brother's playing, my younger brother's playing. I had a makeshift kind of stereo hooked up with surround sound. I just hooked up more speakers and I bought a wire splitter from Radio Shack, and I still have it, where it wasn't surround sound, it split the sound more, and I took my parents' old speakers that they had on an old vinyl player, and I hooked it up, and it was just loud. All treble, no bass, I didn't know what that was. It was loud, I'm probably half deaf, that's why I was yell all the time. And I was blasting it, my parents would tell me to turn it down, and that was my cool kind of little man cave back then. You know, it was my favorite game. I still, my N64, my games are in storage until I get a home and, build the real top tier. This is kind of just beta top tier. And it's something that I would love to revisit. I've actually played it, emulated at my cousin's house. And, but we played this version, not the gold. So, I don't know, it's almost the same thing. This game, holds, a lot and true to my heart. I know not a lot of people like it as much as number 1. I can respect that. I get it. But to me, I like number 2. I can't wait to do the gameplay next video. I'm going to be doing the gameplay. I'm definitely going to be going through it. Yes, I played through it a couple of times, having a blast, using, every trick that I remember and that I've, looked online, and, and just doing the walkthrough. So, that's my memories of Killer Instinct 2 and Gold-ish. I had a blast. I was vindicated. I felt like, the torch was passed to me. We went from arcades to consoles, now, and then now I started collecting, and all the games from then on, from the PS2 that I had, my N64, my PS3, my PS4, not to mention some Game Boy. I had the Wii and the GameCube. Oh my God. Yeah, the only was all me. So I'm proud of that, and this was kind of the stepping stone, my first N64 game to my first system I bought, and I'm proud to have it in my collection. So, guys, that's pretty much the memories of my arcade experience with Killer Instinct 2. Oh, a few months later, this game was actually gone from the theater, because I remember going to see a movie for my birthday, which in July, so a few months later, and this wasn't here. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And instead, I think, what did they have? Tekken? I think they brought Tekken in, because I think Tekken at the time was making more money. I don't know if they had, I think, Tekken 3? Is that the one with Jin, when Jin first came in? I think it was Tekken 3. And they replaced it, and I was really bummed out. I'm like, no, this was my game. And I guess Tekken was more popular than Killer Instinct 2 anyways, than 1. And it was making big money. Maybe it's demographics. Maybe it was easier. Because, Tekken you can kind of mash and get past it. Killer Instinct, you wouldn't be that hard, or it wouldn't be that easy. So, who knows what happens? Maybe this is the game. Can you imagine? Wow, that'd be a trip, huh? I mean, you never know. I mean, I got it within the Greater Toronto area. You just never know. Crazier things have happened. So, you know what, guys? I'm going to pretty much wrap it up. I don't want to ramble. Again, always a pleasure. Thanks again for checking out Top Tier. It's the least I can do. Again, next video, part 5, will be the gameplay of Killer Instinct 2. Check it out. I can't wait. I'm going to have a lot of fun with that. And with that being said, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It's gluten-free, like everything else in the world now. Please subscribe. I would appreciate it. Only more new videos coming out. And, a lot more that I have written down in front of me that I can't tell you yet. And again, a lot of, I can't wait until my next couple of videos or the next couple of series, because it's going to be epic to say the least. Because now we're almost getting close to all my arcade collection for now. With that being said, again, please subscribe if you haven't. If you're watching this or you watch this or you went to Brofest 2015, I wish I can join you. Like I said, here's to you. Cheers to you all, you guys. And maybe one day I'll come visit as well, and you can meet me and I can definitely meet you. So again, it's been a pleasure. Take it easy. Peace.